Corey Graves returns to WWE after 1 week off. Triple H has changed WWE. Raw on Netflix numbers and more. I'm Luke Owen. Not even Ollie Davis throwing paper into a small bin can stop me from being champion. And this is the WrestleTalk news.
Support WrestleTalk!
Get exclusive bonus videos over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk.
And now we return to the curious case of Corey Graves, aka the boy who cried work. Following Raw's debut on Netflix, where Pat McAfee and Michael Cole were reunited and it feels so good behind the commentary desk, Corey Graves was bumped from his position on SmackDown to being part of a three-man booth on NXT with Vic Joseph and Booker T. Fans noted during the show that Graves looked annoyed, and I'll be honest, I forgot he was there at times because he was so quiet. He then put out a since-deleted tweet where he said he was told by WWE that he had to retire from in-ring wrestling and is now considered not famous enough to be a commentator on Raw, a seemingly not so subtle dig at McAfee, who I'm told is famous outside of wrestling, probably in sports. He then tweeted ahead of last week's NXT that he had a lot to say on the show, but then wasn't on the show, and both Fightful Select and PW Insider reported that Graves flew home from Orlando. Dave Meltzer even noted the following day on Wrestling Observer Radio that there were some in WWE who believed that Graves was trying to get himself fired, and Fightful Select reported that Corey Graves legit had frustrations with being moved back to NXT after doing so much good work on both Raw and SmackDown. But while people within WWE were telling the likes of Meltzer and Sean Ross Sapp that this was a shoot, both men and all other reporters noted in their reports that this could all just be one big work, much like the time that Graves and Booker T manufactured heat between them to get one over on the dirt sheets. Meltzer said on yesterday's Wrestling Observer Radio he has not been fired. I get no impression that he's going to be fired. He's not looking to leave, even though I know there were people in the company who thought he was. Ahead of this week's NXT, PW Insider reported that Graves would again not be part of the show, but Corey Brennan of Fightful Select reported that he was listed for commentary, Graves that is, and would be at rehearsals. And for those of you who did not tune in to last night's NXT, Corey Graves did return to the commentary desk. He said, "I am right where I want to be, where passion is everything and only the hungry survive, and pro wrestling never stopped being cool." Fightful Select add in their report, "For those who have asked, there have been no indication from Graves or those close to him that this situation is a work. Sources close to him said they'd be surprised if it didn't become one." However, for what it's worth, PW Insider are saying that this was a fairly last-minute deal, as Graves reportedly was booked to return to NXT on Monday, and they expect his tweets won't be referenced on TV at any point. So, was this all just one big work to begin with, or was it a shoot that could become a work, or even a shoot that has just been resolved with no work added on? Let me know in the comments down below. Or could it just be a change in the culture in WWE, which has been orchestrated by the new guy in charge? But before that, check out this clip from our Patreon-exclusive Mustache Night War series, where Ollie and I battle it out on WWE 2K24's MyGM mode, while also sporting awesome, cool, and handsome mustaches. Head on over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk, where there is a bunch of bonus content coming up, including this weekend a 4-hour review of Survivor Series 2011 as part of a new series where Ollie and I look back at The Rock's original return to WWE and his feud with John Cena. But for now, here is that Mustache Night War clip.
Okay, so Gunther was going to face someone else, can't remember who, but he said, "I want more of a challenge. Put me in a three-way with Elia and Nick." And I was like, who's Nick?
Nosedive.
I've been calling the helmets for so long I forgot it was him. But please, 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 injure yourself, Flint. He's on 24 stamina.
Gunther gets the win. Oh, and
yes!
there it is!
Yes, and 2 weeks isn't that bad!
15,000 fans. Oh, that's so good. There has been a lot of talk about how different WWE feels since Triple H took over the creative reins in 2022, even during the times when Vince McMahon was trying to get back into the creative position. The product feels different, it feels fresh, it feels, as Corey Graves put it, cool. It may still have some issues. There are currently only 2 women declared for this year's Royal Rumble compared to the very good, deep, multi-level storytelling heading into the men's Rumble, but I'd say overall, it's been a net positive. A lot of wrestlers have done interviews talking about how much better the creative process has been, but perhaps a much better change is the one backstage. On his 6 Feet Under podcast, Undertaker noted it's so chill backstage now. You've got people in corners shooting TikToks. I think it's a testament to the trust Triple H and Nick Khan have in everyone to do their jobs. Taker has been known for not liking the backstage culture in WWE since his retirement, once bemoaning that it was just kids playing video games and doing lame things like getting on with each other. Back in his day, men were men and carried guns and bullied colleagues into mental health breakdowns. His stance has now changed, and is reflected in the change that Triple H has brought forward, with one key difference: he's not stressed out. Taker added, back in the day, if the boss was stressed, everyone else was stressed. Now, there's a trust in the system that makes a difference. Triple H puts so much positive energy and it resonates with the whole team. It's a completely different atmosphere. It brings to mind those previous reports about the backstage culture in WWE, when Vince was in charge. The talent were always walking on eggshells and afraid to sneeze. And perhaps Triple H's lack of stress comes from the fact that WWE is so hot right now. The company has had a string of sellout shows, pay-per-view numbers on Peacock are through the roof with each event, and merchandise sales are doing great. And on top of all of that, WWE is now on Netflix and available in front of more eyes than ever before. And on a Netflix earning call, CEO Ted Sarandos, the guy that The Rock put over on the debut, himself put over the success that WWE has had early doors. He noted WWE is off to a great start. Our first week, we drew about 5 million views, which is about 2 times the audience that Monday Night Raw was doing on linear television. He also added that the post-live viewership, i.e. those who did not watch it live and caught it on demand, saw a 25% increase on that number, which mostly came from the overseas markets like UK, Canada, Mexico, and Brazil. And Netflix have now revealed that last week's Raw, which saw the debut of Penta, the finals of the Women's Intercontinental Championship, and Finn Balor vs. Damian Priest, got around 3.7 million global plays. It ranked 4th in the top 10 shows watched globally on Netflix. Ha! You thought that the ratings chat was going to go away with the Netflix move, but I'm coming at you with stats and Dave Meltzer has gone into these numbers, and doing some clever maths about how many homes Netflix is in and other show conversions, he estimates this means last week's Raw got around 1.4 million views live, growing to around 1.7 million across 7 days. He writes this is probably a very similar range to how the show would have done against the NFL playoff game on USA Network. He adds, for viewers overall, it would be a drop-off of 44.1% from the first show on January 6th, but a major drop would be expected from the first week, noting that last week and this week's shows have big football competition. He concludes it's way too early to come to conclusions, but right now, my gut says Netflix could be a game changer internationally, but in the US, it's in the ballpark of what the show did on USA Network already by week 2. And it's to those international markets we turn to next, as Fightful Select report that WWE's ID program is now heading to the UK and Europe. Fans noted that all the first signings to WWE ID were from domestic territories, and it was revealed that no European talent had been approached about signing up for the program. According to Fightful Select, that was by design. Sean Ross Sapp and Corey Brennan report that WWE will be holding tryouts in early March this year for UK and European talent. A sentence I've always found weird because we're part of Europe. Wrestlers have until February 28th to apply. Fightful add that the tryouts will take place in London, and WWE already have their eyes on some wrestlers who have caught their attention. In particular, Riho and Tate Mayfairs. Both had been invited to watch NXT tapings late last year. Damian Corvin is also listed in Fightful Select's report. Rio had a one-shot on NXT UK as part of a Battle Royal in 2019, but Mayfairs was signed by WWE to be part of the NXT UK brand in 2022, which then shut down shortly thereafter. Riho is a regular on Progress, NGW, Eve, and Rev Pro, and Mayfairs regularly works with Progress, Riot Cabaret, and Hustle. Both hold titles in TNT. Both are, and I'm showing no bias here because Mayfairs crashed our live survival series on All In Weekend, but both are awesome. Fightful Select note that the Australian tryouts held in February last year led to the signing of Delta, who has since debuted on NXT under her new name Zarya. Fightful do add though several major talents in the UK were unaware of the tryouts when we reached out. Looking at WWE's other developmental brand TNA now, and it was reported that Jordynne Grace was finishing up with them following their Genesis pay-per-view where she lost to Tessa Blanchard and was WWE bound. Fightful Select are now reporting that Grace was in Orlando this past Monday, which would suggest that her debut as an official member of the WWE or NXT roster is fairly close. After all, there is always that Royal Rumble coming soon. And speaking of potential Royal Rumble returns, PW Insider are reporting that Jade Cargill has been seen training at the NXT Performance Center on a weekly basis and is looking to be gearing up for an in-ring return. They do note, however, that it's not exactly clear on the timing for Cargill's return. Now you can go and watch Ollie Davis and myself giving our full thoughts on Raw on the WrestleTalk podcast, which also saw Ollie attempt to win my beautiful Jam That Championship by throwing some rubbish in a bin.